Hello, everybody. It's me. It's Honey. Hi. I'm sorry I'm so late coming back with playing Hunter the Reckoning, the Beast of Glenkildove, but you remember like the last time I was here, like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I'm getting a little sick. Well, I did. I got sick. I got real sick. Real hardcore. I'm still sick. But I'm like, I have to play this. I can't. It's just sitting there in my Steam library, and I need to play it. So I have tea, and I'm going to try and get through an hour, and hopefully that'll be good. This is, if you're in Europe right now, this is like the worst flu running through Europe in a long time, since, that other thing that ran through the whole world not that long ago. And it's just real nasty. It's all gunk up in here, and sorry, I'll stop being gross, but hello, welcome back to Hunter the Reckoning, the Beast of Glenkildove. I'm super excited. We've already played these before, because I played them in the demo that came out, but, I don't know if anything changed, or if there's stuff that's new, and also, I like to make different choices than I did before, because I'm pretty sure this time I'm playing a boy, which is fun for me. So, Chapter 2, The Minstrel Boy. Speaking of boys, I have put on a new form, a skin rough and gray. Victory comes easy to me when I was once weak and defenseless. The tale of that word and those words. Tuan Mak Karal? Oh, I can't. I'm so sorry. An animal howl breaks through the silence of the night. It is as though the sound hits your nervous system directly and your body reacts instantly. Despite the cold of the night, you break into a sweat. Relatable content. You shiver uncontrollably. Your heart pounds, your throat tightens. For a moment, you think you're going to retch. You know that sound. You last heard it at Glenkildove 8 years ago. You can hear the beast now, shuffling, heavy footsteps outside, a snuffling animal nose. It is moving slowly around the perimeter of the farmhouse. You think it might be deliberately letting you hear it, letting you work yourself up to a breaking point. But sooner or later, it will come into the house after you. It's just as Ain Madigan once told you, the beast is always hungry. What will you do? What will I do against the beast that's always hungry? I will look outside the kitchen window, trying to catch a glimpse of the beast to learn what I can. The glass of the window has long since been shattered, and you peer out through fractured shards of glass. It is difficult to make anything out in the moonlit shadows of the farmyard, but at last you can make out a dark, hulking shape standing by the barn, at least 9 feet tall. I always forget that in the UK or in Ireland, well, I don't know. Actually, I know in the UK, they use both, like, meters and feet, and, like, they use both the imperial and metric system, which I find funny. You can make out no details of its features except for its yellow eyes, which seem to glow in the moonlight. As you watch the figure tilt its head back and sniffs the air, producing that bestial snuffle you heard earlier. You have no doubt that those glowing golden eyes have perfect night vision, but the way that the beast sniffed the air suggests to you that it hunts more by scent than by vision, like a dog or a wolf. That golden gaze turns towards you and you drop down again, resting below the broken panes of the window where you cannot be seen. You have no doubt that the beast is now stealthily advancing once more. Hello, Furnace. Hello. Welcome in. Oh, God. Another howl tears through the night. It sounds closer this time, much closer. The beast is coming for you. In a moment or two, you will be face to face once again, as you were that day in Glenkildove. Even as you prepare yourself for that moment, your mind is racing. So many things happened that last summer. Is it possible that hidden among those days is some clue, some hidden message in the ways that events played out, some weakness of the beast, something that might somehow save your life now? Or was the fate you now face set inexorably in motion all that time ago? 9 years ago. Excuse me, I need to cough. I wish I could, like, go back into my own memory and be like, yes, 9 years ago, I'm gonna play it out. This is the date I want to start at and play it out from this time. Could never be me. I can't remember, like, a week ago. You came back to a different dynamic the following summer. Big changes, subtle changes happened in the time that you were gone, in the months that the others spent together without you present. There were allusions to flirtations and crushes, the hints of rivalry and attraction, and you had been going through changes of your own just as the others had. I am attracted to everybody. I realize that I can be attracted to people of all genders. Yeah. In some ways, it made you feel like an outsider all over again, missing so many developments in the lives of your friends in Ballyavon. But at the same time, you sensed that this drew you to each of them. They came to know each other so well, but they didn't know you, and there was something refreshing and intriguing about that for them. Now everybody always got on, with you or with each other, but everyone seemed to sense that all of you shared something hard to define, something that brought you together time after time. Only Amy, I'm saying her name wrong. I know it told me how to pronounce it, but I need that pronunciation again. I'm going to say Ain. Only Ain always remained on the outside. Which of the 6 did you spend the most time with? Of course, there's her, which I like. Simon, Cormac's sensitive, bookish best friend. I think Simon is the one who's in love with... It's either Simon or Daniel who's in love with Cormac. I can't remember. But I want to... Like, of course, I want to kiss Cormac again in the caves if I get to. So I'm going to spend time with the one who's actually in love with him just to be a jerk. Of all the groups, Simon was the most interested in ideas. He loved to discuss and analyze the books that he'd read and the theories that he came across online. At times like this, his natural diffidence fell away. He became almost arrogantly sure of himself and confident that he knew best, but he could always be relied upon to puncture his own pomposity sooner or later with a self-deprecating joke. I did not talk that way when I was a teenager. I don't think I've ever used the word pomposity before today. Hello, good time zone. I'm still sick, so excuse how terrible my voice sounds. I also have this very annoying bug bite on my chest that I keep picking at. That's why it's not getting better. A few days into your second summer in Ireland, Cormac comes to see you in your room at the Wolf's Head. Liam, he says without preamble, I need your help. Let's hear it. No one talks like that. For some reason, Cormac always seems particularly ill at ease in the Wolf's Head. Pacing your room with his usual restless vigor, he explains the situation. His grandmother, the infamous Orla O'Donnell, is going to be holding a meeting soon with a man from Dublin, Michael Duffy, a man whom Cormac thinks is from one of the big Dublin gangs. Her sons are going to be there too, including Cormac's father, Terry, as well as 2 local guards, Irish police officers who've been in Orla's pocket for years. And whatever this meeting is about, it's been haunting Terry for weeks. He hasn't joked or smiled since Orla told him about the meeting, and he's been smoking pot and drinking heavily. Cormac shakes his head. Grandma's got no time for Da. She thinks he's weak, that he hasn't earned his place in our family. I know she and the Dub are going to make him do something that could get him in trouble. I need to know what. So where do I come in? Cormac looks at you. This is where we're going to meet, the wolf said. It's neutral ground, not Dublin and not the mountains, and I want you to find out what they say there. I need to know what they're planning for my Da. Maybe there's something I can do. Like, tell the police? No. How do you just go in love triangle? Hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what real teenagers do. If young adult fiction has taught me anything, real teenagers get into love triangles all the time. It's like a rite of passage. Cormac shakes his head. The Garda, that word? Nah, the ones around here all get brown envelopes from my grandma every month, and bringing in Dublin police would make everything worse. Trust me. You live here, you can go anywhere you want around the Wolf's Head. I thought you could find a way to listen in on the conversation. It's how I found out about this meeting in the first place. I listened at the door to Grandma talking to my Da. Yeah, no, I'm not going to get murdered just to satisfy your curiosity. I think that's what I did last time, which I'm not going to do. Let's see. Am I going to ask for something in a favor? No, I'm just going to be like, I will, Cormac. Don't worry. I totally love you. A few days later, Michael Duffy arrives at the Wolf's Head. He's a wiry, prematurely balding, red-eyed man with a thick Dublin accent, always dressed in a tracksuit and a leather jacket. He unconvincingly claims to be a tourist in the area, although he rarely leaves his room and seems uncomfortable and ill at ease whenever he's not surrounded by 4 walls. Mare seems to immediately clock him for what he is and shakes her head. Trouble. Orla O'Donnell's up to something, I'd be guessing. Oh well, as long as he pays his bill and doesn't frighten the horses. Don't spook the horses. Duffy's suite is in the guest accommodations in the southern wing of the Wolf's Head. Like your own, it is just below the eaves of the inn's roof. It has a little sitting room attached, and you imagine that he plans to meet the O'Donnells there. If you did want to listen in for Cormac's sake or for your own curiosity, you could try to hide somewhere in the suite before the meeting starts. Or, for a less risky but more physically demanding approach, you could pull yourself up onto the roof from your window, climb across the Wolf's Head roof to Duffy's window, and hope that you can overhear at least some of what is said. Or if you have the technical skills, perhaps you could assemble a homemade bug. Every teenager knows how to make a homemade bug. We know this. This is common knowledge. It's common sense, I fear. And place it in Duffy's sitting room before the meeting starts. I will try to listen from the outside, perched on the roof above the window. That can't go wrong. That Saturday, you are sitting in the parlor when Orla O'Donnell and her sons drive up to the Wolf's Head and stride inside. It is the first time you have met her, or any of them except Terry, who smiles weakly at you. Besides the O'Donnell boys, there are a couple of Wicklow Gardaí Irish police officers. By all accounts, the local police force is completely under Orla's control. You suspect she is girl boss. You suspect she has brought the two guards along in order to make that clear to Duffy. Terry's three brothers, Seamus, Aidan, and Mark, are all big burly men, but even they seem small next to the Red O'Donnell matriarch. She is not as tall as her sons, but she is massively built with broad shoulders and heavy muscled arms. She scowls at you. "You're one of my grandsons, Lod, aren't you? Go get your aunt. I need to talk to her." Seems fun. Achievement. Teenage FBI. Eavesdrop on a secret meeting. Look at me go. You soon find Mare and bring her downstairs. She stiffens slightly at the sight of Orla and her sons, but gives her a coolly polite nod. "Orla," she says. "Mare," returns Orla. There is a quiet tension in the air. "We're here to see a guest of yours, Michael Duffy. All the way from the Big Smoke, God love him. He's been expecting us." "So have I," says Mare. "Ever since your Michael Duffy checked in fact." She grimaces. "I keep to myself, Orla, and I live and let live. I'd appreciate the same courtesy. I don't want you doing business in the Wolf's Head." Oh shit, here we go. Let's fight. The tension increases. You notice several of Orla's boys looking to her, waiting for a signal. You're gonna beat up? You're gonna beat up some woman just because, oh my god. But she spreads her meaty hands out in a pacifying gesture. "I hear what you say, Mare. I respect you. I always have. You're a woman of substance around here. It was Duffy who insisted we meet here. I'd be happy to pay you for the inconvenience, like." Mare shakes her head. "I don't want your money. Just finish your business with your Mr. Duffy and go. I'll have a call put through to his room, and in future tell your Dublin friends that the Wolf's Head is off limits." Before Mare is even finished talking, you have slipped up to your room. There you lift open the window and clamber out over a 4-story drop. Jesus! The inn's rough stone walls provide plenty of handholds, but they are also damp and slippery from recent rains. Fortunately, you are in good condition and easily manage the tricky twist and lift upwards to pull yourself up onto the slats of the roof. From there, staying on your belly to avoid notice from those below, you crawl across the roof of the Wolf's Head until you reach the section immediately above Duffy's suite. Perched there, clinging to a drain pipe outcropping with your head as close as possible to the open window, you are able to overhear what is said in the sitting room below. It is far from a comfortable position, but you soon forget the pain in your interest. You soon forget the pain in your interest in the conversation below. "And how are you liking Wicklow, Mr. Duffy?" you hear Orla say. "Sure, isn't it a grand country?" "It's a fucking shithole," Duffy mutters. "I don't fucking like it here. It's too fucking quiet, too fucking dark at night. There's nothing to fucking do, and it's fucking creepy and all. Gets so I want to fucking scream. I want to get out of here. I really fucking do." "Well, so," Orla says equably. "We won't keep you. We'll drive out to the plantation soon enough. As you'll see, it's a fair old way out in the mountains. Not much chance of somebody stumbling over our little green patch of paradise. You'll meet— oh, that's right, I forgot about the Vietnamese workers. You'll meet the workers too, but don't expect much gab from them. We shipped them in from Vietnam, brought them ashore off Brayhead one moonlit night. They don't speak any English, they don't have any passports, there's miles of hill and bog between them and anywhere else. There's men with shotguns and dogs watching them, and they don't even know what country they're in. My boy Seamus signs them up in Ho Chi Minh City, tells them they're going to make their fortunes in New York or someplace like that. By the time they realize they're actually going to be growing cannabis on a farm in the mountains, well," Orla's voice pauses, "what can they do at that point? If they ever want to see their homes and families, they'll do as we say." In other words, the Red O'Donnells are using slave labor. How do you react? How How would a person react? How do you expect me to react? I'm disgusted but not surprised. This confirms everything both Mare and Cormac have ever implied about Orla O'Donnell. Yeah, absolutely. A reluctant fascination. Jesus. No. Hi. It's me, it's Huddy, back from the dead of being sick with the flu, of which I am still suffering. No, I'm not quite suffering anymore. I'm just, I don't know. I'm somewhere in between suffering and not. As we all are. So silly. I'm so silly. Right, Duffy says. He sounds reluctantly impressed. So your man Seamus runs things out there, does he? Nah, I need Seamus out east. Terry'll be in charge of the plantation. It's his land. God knows he's never made any good use of it up until now. He's your point of contact, aren't you, Terry? Terry gives a wan assent. There is little conversation after this, but the broad outline of the deal becomes clear. The Red O'Donnells will grow the wheat here in Wicklow, relying on their knowledge of the region and Orla's control over the local police. They'll send it to the Duffys, who'll use their distribution networks in Dublin and beyond to sell it on the streets. From the sound of his voice and what Cormac told you, Terry obviously has very little appetite for the risks and the ruthlessness involved. Soon you can hear the group getting up to leave. You withdraw to the roof, rubbing your aching neck and limbs for a minute or two until feeling returns, before carefully making your way back to your room. We did it, everyone. We're a super spy. We're the best. Thank you for all the bits as well. You're so sweet. You have learned the existence of a major criminal conspiracy out here in the Wicklow Mountains, the one that directly involves Cormac's father. What will you do? Oh, keep what I heard to myself and tell no one. I'll tell Cormac. I'm not gonna call the police because Orla pays off all the police, but I will tell Cormac everything. You see Cormac out at the farm and sitting atop the hay barrels in the barn, tell him everything. He listens, face impassive until you're finished. Right, is all he says. Right? That's all you have to say? He grimaces, spreads his arms. It's fucked up, all right, and it's why I hate my family. But there's nothing I can do except get out of here as soon as I can before they drag me down to the stew. Maybe someday I'll come back, find some way to help my dad and the other people the Red O'Donnells have hurt. Here we go. Oh god. No, because like why? Because his grandmother will want him to come back. I'm here for you, Cormac, no matter what. I'm here for you, boom. You're my favorite. I'm 16, so I'm making really good life decisions. Cormac turns away as though he doesn't want you to see his face in that moment, then hugs you fiercely and wordlessly. After that, life returns to normal. Duffy checks out of his room and returns to Dublin. Terry, Cormac's father, is never quite what he was, but he seems to come to terms with his new role. Sometimes you even forget about what you learned, but the mountains can never seem quite as beautiful to you now that you know one of the darker secrets they hide. It's near the end of the summer on a cold and overcast day when Simon and Claudia turn up at the Wolf's Head looking for you. Simon is driving his mother's car, a silver Honda. He got his driver's license last month and avails himself of any excuse to borrow the car. We're finally doing it! Oh, that's disgusting. You're related. Your brother and sister. Sorry. Stupid. Claudia announces, bursting into your room. And when I say stupid, I'm talking about myself. Please, come in, Claudia. Make yourself at home. Thank you. Claudia says, cheerfully throwing herself down on the bed. Let me tell you about how we do it. But I mustn't allow myself to get too comfortable because we're finally going to explore the caves at Glenkildove. Okay, I'll get my coat. Claudia continues. It's always miserable that time of year. After school starts, me and Simon go to our school, Kitty goes to hers, and Cormac and Daniel go to theirs. And you go back to London. We're not all together again for months. So we should all go down a dark hole in the ground together, Simon explains. Exactly, Claudia says. It's the obvious course of action. Dark hole in the ground, here we go. Well, good. I've been curious about those caves ever since you first mentioned them. Simon goes to gather some food supplies that Mare is donating to the caving expedition. Claudia lingers behind. You know, Cormac didn't really want to go. He only agreed because we told him we'd persuade you to come too. These days, he'll do a lot of things just to spend time with you. Really? What do you mean? Claudia, what do you mean? Claudia sighs. I mean, I think he likes you, and it's just, well, you know how my brother feels about Cormac, or maybe you don't, but trust me, my stupid brother's been in love with Cormac pretty much since childhood, even if he's only recently come to realize it. And whatever you're going to do, and however you feel about Cormac yourself, I want you to be thoughtful. Simon's fragile. He's not tough like me. Tough? Really? I'm gonna be a jerk. I'll be careful. I don't want to hurt Simon. She smiles. Good. I'm glad. I'm dead. Soon after, in the passenger seat of Simon's secondhand car, driving through a sudden shower of rain, the windscreen wipers fitfully wash thick dollops of rainwater away from the windscreen. Hang on, I'm gonna grab me a cough drop here real quick. It's not into the microphone. Apologies for that. Try to keep it at bay. This reminds me of a joke, Claudia observes cheerfully from the back. Tell us your joke. I shall. Claudia clears her throat. What did St. Patrick say when he was driving the snakes out of Ireland? But Simon has noticed someone by the side of the road. Hey, that's old Tom. Simon slows down the car door. Nope. Simon slows down the car door. Simon slows the car down and you look out. A white-haired, gaunt old man stands among the trees by the side of the road, heedless of the rain. His face is as weather-beaten as his clothes, his eyes foggy and distant. You don't see him around much these days, says Claudia, abandoning her joke for now. Mum calls him the last of the tramps. He used to pick fruit and help out around the farms for a few quid and a place to sleep. Give him a lift, Simon. It's pouring. Simon pulls into where old Tom is standing and directs you to wind the window down. Wind the window down. Is that the verb for... Well, I think we say roll. I think in America we say roll. Not that I'm in America, but not that I'm in America here right now or in this game. Old Tom hobbles over and glares at you, unspeaking. Can we give you a lift, Tom? Simon says. There is more of an Irish brogue to his voice, addressing old Tom than he usually has. Tom leans in through the open window and puts his face right up next to yours so that you can smell his reeking animal breath. He sniffs at you and snarls, yellowing teeth snapping at the air in front of you. Stay away, stay away. Yes. Okay. Simon, startled, pulls the car away, and old Tom staggers back, slipping in the rain and just managing to catch himself. He continues to shout incoherently after you, his voice filled with rage. Sorry, Liam, Simon says, his voice shaky. I didn't know he was going to do that. He's always been strange, but that... I'm gonna punch him in his fucking face. I'm shaken but calm. It's fine. Let's just get on. He does that to me again. I'll punch him in the face. There is an uncomfortable silence after that. Even Claudia seems subdued. The silence is dispelled when Simon pulls the car up outside Daniel's house in the village, and Daniel and Kitty pile in. Cormac, who always prefers to walk whenever possible, will meet you at Glenkildove. Ready for the descent? Daniel asks you cheerfully. Try and stop me, boo-boo. So sorry. A little used muddy track takes you to the edge of Glenkildove. From there, you need to push your way through the dripping wet gorse and unending downpour of the rain down into the valley. You pass by the monastery and the lake and once again enter the woods. You experience the same feeling of unease that you did there last summer, the uncomfortable feeling of watchful eyes in the shadows. Cormac is leaning against one of the standing stones. Rain is plastering his t-shirt to his leanly muscular body. And we take a good look at that. He doesn't seem to notice it. He nods as you and the others emerge from the trees. Good, you're here. Let's go. And hello to you too, Cormac, Daniel says. Fine, thank you for asking. And how are you? Cormac ignores him. The entrance to the cave system is up at the top of the waterfall, he says, pointing to the dark hollow of a cave entrance some 40 feet up. There's a track that runs alongside it. But why not take the direct route? Claudia asks with a grin. We're already soaked, so why not? Suiting action to words, she begins to scramble up the little waterfall with the agility of a monkey, finding handholds wherever she can on the slippery rock. Cormac follows her, moving with lithe grace. Kitty looks away, shaking her head. Oh, I can't watch. I just can't watch. I'll see you at the top, presuming that neither of you brains yourself. That's a great saying. She starts heading up the track. Daniel shrugs. I have nothing to prove. He and Simon make their way up the track after Kitty. I do have something to prove. I'm gonna try and be cool like Kitty. Who's not very cool, but it's fine. Kitty smiles as you fall into step with her along the granite, rough-cut steps of the path. You sense that she's flattered you have chosen to walk with her. She's used to being overlooked. I hope they'll be okay on the waterfall, she says, shaking her head. Cormac and Claudia, they're short on common sense, and Simon could be the world's dumbest smart person. And Daniel, she sighs. Oh. I ask her if she has feelings for Daniel. Kitty shakes her head. I can see why you think that, but no. I love Daniel to bits, but he and I, well, we'd never make sense together. But sometimes I'd like to give it a try all the same. Speaking of such things, though, you are aware that Cormac is very much in love with you, right? Yes. Everybody keeps telling me that. Kitty nods. You mean Claudia? She's sharper than she seems, that girl. Everyone gathers together on a broad ledge of rock in front of the dark cave mouth. Cormac raises an eyebrow. Would you like to do the honors? He asks Claudia. Claudia grins. Sure thing. Follow me. Flicking on a flashlight, she plunges into the cave, and the rest of you follow behind. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, so sorry. The narrow winding tunnel at the back of the cave leads downward through the heart of the cliff itself. A draft of cold air periodically brushes your faces as you begin the descent, as though something buried deep below is breathing in and out. For some reason, you think of the foul blast of old Tom's breath against your face in the car hours earlier. The cave walls drip with moisture and the light. Oh, that's right. Oh, no, I have to read. I forgot. I forgot in the demo. I have to read a very, like, The Last of Us mushroom people thing. I forgot about this. The cave walls drip with moisture, and the light from your flashlights catches green-black moss and growths of gray-pink fungi glistening wetly, like something fleshy and living. A trick of the light sometimes seems to make them rise and fall with the wind from below. All of you instinctively try to avoid touching the growths, even when the sides of the cave become uncomfortably close. Cormac has produced some white chalk and stops periodically to mark your route as you make your way down the forking paths of the cave network. He's explored many of the old mines around Wicklow in the past. Try to keep track of where we've been, he says quietly. It's easier to get lost in places like this than you realize, and they don't always look the same coming back that they did going in. The descent consumes the next 3 hours. At times, it is something of an ordeal. As your explorations continue, Cormac insists on conserving the batteries of the flashlight and only using them occasionally. The rest of the time, you must feel your way through with your hands extended out in front of you. This is like my nightmare. This is me walking through my own nightmare. No. There are times when the way ahead becomes extremely narrow, and you have to squeeze yourself one by one through the gap, pressing your body against the soft, fleshy, fruiting bodies of the fungi on the walls. Feeling them burst softly, staining your clothes and skin. Hard pass. It is not hard to picture getting stuck at times like this, 100 tons of rock pressing down on you and trapping you there to slowly fossilize. No. At such moments, one or another of the others will make noises about simply going back. Even Claudia is less keen than she was, but Cormac urges everyone on. He seems thrilled and excited by your surroundings, his eyes seeming to glow green in the sporadic light from your flashlights. How are you reacting? No, yeah, I'm just trying to, like, get through this. I'm trying to survive. Don't want to be here anymore. I obviously wanted to go. No one told me about the mushrooms. There is something else. Every now and then, when the group pauses, you think you hear something, a wet snuffling sound like a dog sniffing the wind. The slap of footsteps coming from one of the many side passages that run parallel to the main one that you are following. It is as though someone or something is stalking you in these blind labyrinthian caves. The first 2 times you hear it, it might just be your imagination, but the third time, which occurs as Cormac calls a halt, Kitty turns on her flashlight and people pass around the water bottle and bite into chocolate bars, is undeniable. You are standing beside Cormac when you hear it. I call the group's attention to the sound. Hey, do you hear that? Hear what? Asked Daniel. You explain, but by the time you have finished, the sound has gone. Maybe it was just the wind, Kitty says, or an animal or something. Even she doesn't sound entirely convinced, and you sense that the group is a little unnerved by the idea that someone else might be in these caves. Soon afterwards, you emerge into a large cavern, its floor covered in gritty sand. Judging by the breeze on your face, there are several openings besides the one you entered through. There is a momentary feeling of relief at being able to stand upright again and feel the air less chokingly close around you. Simon flicks on his flashlight, then gasps in amazement. Look! You look in the direction of the beam of light. The walls are covered in brown-red paintings. The images are crude, little more than stick figures, and yet somehow they have an astonishing vitality and energy to them. In the light from Simon's flashlight, they look as though they might leap off the walls. There are pictures of towering Irish elk and humans hunting them with spears and bows and arrows, and others of people planting and sowing or tending to cattle. Extraordinary, Simon murmurs. I think this... What 16-year-old says extraordinary? I think this cave was a sacred place or a shrine. If it's as old as the standing stones, it must be thousands and thousands of years old or even older. This is incredible. I stare at the paintings in awe. Nobody else responds to Simon, engrossed as they are in the haunting images on the walls. Simon's flashlight beam plays along the wall. The hunting and farming scenes give way to a great gathering. Crowds of people depicted as prostrating themselves and pressing their foreheads to the ground. At the front of the line, a tall female figure wearing the antlers of an Irish elk like a crown kneels and holds a baby aloft. Simon, Kitty asks, her voice curiously level. What is this? What are they doing to that little baby? I think this is showing the rites of Crom Cruach, Simon says. Simon says. There's a tradition that long ago in Ireland, in exchange for great harvests of grain, the people would sacrifice their firstborn to the god Crom Cruach at the place of adoration. He moves the flashlight beam onwards in the direction that the antler-headed woman is offering the baby. There among standing stones, recognizable as those of Glenkildove, stands a figure much taller and broader than any of the human beings, its claws raised in exultation, its head that of a snarling red-black wolf. Crom Cruach, says Simon, his voice shaky. The beast, whispers Cormac from somewhere in the shadows. I am simply taking in the details as objectively and neutrally as I can. Hunters rule, vampires drool. That's fair. Completely valid statement. Just then, a terrible howl echoes through the cavern. It is a sound that you feel as though you hear your body reacting with feverish nausea and uncontrollable shaking as terror floods through it. Simon screams and drops the flashlight, and you all are plunged into darkness. Something is racing towards you at an incredible speed, its footsteps scraping the sand of the cavern floor. What do you do? I run. I run! I don't want to be here. What follows is a desperate scramble through the subterranean maze. The tunnels of the cave network weave in and out of large caverns like the one with the paintings. They spiral, rise, fall, turn back on themselves, and narrow and widen unpredictably. Sometimes it feels as though the beast is so close behind you that you can almost feel its hot breath on the back of your neck. But gradually you gain ground on it, and after an interminable period of running and crawling, you can no longer hear it behind you at all. You are exhausted, your body is covered in cold sweat, and you are beginning to shake uncontrollably. You will not be able to go much further without dropping from fatigue. You are just passing through another cavern when a familiar voice hisses to you from one of the side tunnels. Hey, over here! It is Cormac. He's lying against the tunnel wall, his flashlight switched on but placed on the ground by his side. His right leg is stretched out in front of him as though he injured it. He is drinking from his water flask and offers you some as you squat down beside him. I couldn't keep going anymore, he whispers, and I thought I'd rather die in the light anyway. Don't talk that way. We're gonna get out of this. Cormac smiles painfully. He looks at you, his head cocked to one side. His eyes are bright and he speaks rapidly with a slight delirious slur. I thought, whatever it was going to get me, he says. It was so close and then it seemed to go away just in time. I twisted my ankle. I don't think it's gone for good. I've been thinking, Cormac says, his eyes gleaming feverishly. If I died down here, if we all died down here, what would I regret? I regret coming down here in the first place. That's a honey answer. That's literally what I would say. There's a lot of things I'd regret, so I don't intend to die down here. I thought about what you told me, about what they're making my dad do, about those people from Vietnam. Am I just running away? Is there something I could do? And I thought about everything I wanted to be, everything that would be left undone. The two of you are lying alongside one another against the wall, shivering in the cold of the cave network and the slow ebbing of adrenaline. As he speaks, Cormac extends his arm and places it across your shoulder in an unspoken question. Yup. Yes. And then we kiss. I lean into his embrace, moving closer to him. Kiss. A few moments later, the two of you are kissing, gently and softly at first, but then with mounting hunger and passion. Cormac's lips taste of salt and pine, his lean body is hard and strong against you. You mutually break the kiss to draw deep lungfuls of air, still clasped in each other's arms. Cormac's expression in the light from the flashlight is one of fascination, almost reverence. He is watching you closely. He begins. Hey, interrupts Simon's voice from the cavern beyond. There the two of you are. Come here. But what are you? Oh. Brave Sir Honey ran away. Yeah, run away. I'll fucking die down in those caves. Jesus. Oh, it's literally, this whole scenario is literally a nightmare of mine. If someone came up to me, a friend of mine, and was like, we're gonna go spelunking, I'd be like, well, give me the bullet points of what you want me to write in your obituary. Because I'm not going. Scrambling out of the tunnel, you see Simon standing with the others, Daniel, Claudia, and Kitty. Their flashlights switched on. He is the only one who saw you and Cormac kissing. He looks stricken, his face pale, but he recovers as you emerge. It's good to see you both, he whispers. I thought, well, you know. The group discusses what happened in the painted cave in hushed whispers. The beast was on Cormac's heels for a long time, but according to Cormac, it suddenly and abruptly seemed to cease the pursuit and let him escape. It's still out there somewhere, though, says Daniel, whatever it is. We can't go back the way we came. It could be waiting for us. I think we should follow the draft. If air gets in here, there must be another way out, too. That's good thinking, Daniel. You've kept your head. I haven't. Thanks, Daniel says nonchalantly. You all move off together in the direction of the draft, although it seems to lead steadily downwards, even as your exhaustion mounts. You sense that everybody is having the same thought. What if this path just leads you deeper into the maze until you're lost forever? And if it does, would you rather die of exposure or have the beast find you in the dark? I don't want to think about... Okay. I would rather wander the dark forever than hear that howl again. Well, we won't wander for... We'll wander until we starve to death. So, there's that. The ace version of this is just him talking about Simon's crush on him and all the power of asexuality, just getting the relationship tea. It's perfect. That's perfect. I love it. I love it. It is after a long... I can't. I mean, I try and play character, I always try and pick, like, the romance everybody option, like being pansexual or bisexual, because I want to have as many options as possible, like, to experience more of the story. But, yeah, I'm a sucker for romance of any kind. If there's romance in any game, but I have to, like, do something to get to it, like, I'll do it. I don't care what it is. I just love it so much. It is after a long period of stumbling like sleepwalkers through the dark, hands extended out in front of you, that a miracle occurs. You see a light in front of you, dazzling, blinding yellow light. A tall silhouette is moving towards you, its features concealed by the light on its head, presumably a headlamp. As it comes closer and your eyes adjust to the sudden bright light, you can see it is a woman, her broad, strong features framed by dark, curly hair. She's wearing a wet cloth over her mouth and nose, which slowly rises and falls with her breathing. She nods to you and speaks through her makeshift face mask, her gravelly voice muffled and tinged with a slight accent you find hard to place. Good, I found you. I'm here to help. Come this way, we need to get you all out. The woman guides you down a series of passages following a convoluted, tortuous route back through the caves that you could never have found on your own. But somehow, through the blur of fatigue and waning adrenaline, you find yourself back outside the caves above the waterfall, breathing in the fresh, rain-washed air of a soft, mellow Irish evening. The events in the cave below seem like an unreal nightmare. Or a walking, real nightmare. The woman gruffly introduces herself as Imani Mokrani, as I forgot her name rhymes, the owner of the lands adjoining Glenkildove. She removes the damp cloth from her face to lead you down the hillside, back through the glen and into her Land Rover, where she takes a pair of shades from the sun visor pocket. The others, most of them too tired to even speak, collapse into the back, but Imani gestures for you to take the passenger seat. You sense that it has been a long time since she's spoken with anyone else, and she seems to have difficulty finding words. Hop in, I'll get you home. Glad I found you, she says as the car pulls out across the field. That Madigan girl that Ain told me where you were. Don't go there again. It's dangerous. There was an animal, a beast. Help! So sorry, just banning someone obviously trolling. Breathing. Clearly, she's a vampire. I know. What I like about a lot of the choice of games, it was in Werewolf too, where they had a mage character working with the Cult of Fenris. Hello, Thorfinn. Welcome in. Where, you know, they sort of hint at, like, these other things. And, like, in World of Darkness, you know, there's so much, like, stuff going on all the time, right? And there's sort of, like, you know, people who are just, like, more psychically sensitive and stuff. And I just like, I don't know, I like when they include all that stuff. And I'm a big fan of, not explaining everything and just having stuff be like fun and mysterious and supernatural in nature, and you don't need the layout answer of absolutely everything. I enjoy that. I enjoy the mystery and the esotericness of it all. But that's me. That's what I'm all about. She shakes her head. Not what I meant. Imani looks at you, her face grave. It's the mushrooms. Oh, God. The mushrooms. They're gonna get you. On the walls, they make you see things, terrible things. Why wore that cloth, see? That makes sense. You were breathing in their spores the whole time you were down there. Couple more hours down there, your brains would have turned to mush, scrabbling at the walls, screaming at the darkness. The cave goes so much. Get much deeper than you saw. I think that's what happened to the Japanese girl that tore us in the 80s. I think she went to the caves of Glenkildove and something happened to her down there. Something very bad, and she never came back again. It's not good to talk about things you might have seen in the caves, things your brain told you that you saw or heard. Not good to think about them either. It was none of it real, none of it. The mushrooms stir things up from deep down, things from the darkest places of your mind. They come for you down there, but you got out, you survived. That's all that matters, all that will ever matter. You could have said this to us in any other way, but this way, which makes us all feel very scared to continue on with life. My brain is racing. I feel as though there's things here that don't make sense, but I'm so exhausted it's hard to pursue the thread in my mind. Silence falls. Making conversation, I ask Imani about her background, how she came to live in Ireland. I came here 10 years ago. I didn't mean to stay in Ireland. It was just the first stop on my tour of the world. I'd never left Algeria before. I was an engineer there in Algiers. All I'd really known was sprawl, scrub, and desert. I wanted to see the whole world, but this country, she barks a laugh, this country sank its claws into me. Bought some farmland around Glenkildove, never left. By now you've reached Ballyavon. Imani drops off the Fox siblings outside their family home on the outskirts of the village, and Daniel and Kitty at their neighboring cottages. Cormac gets out there too, muttering that he wants to walk home by himself, that he needs the night air. Oh my God, come on, we just kissed. What, 'cause Simon saw? Ever. Screw Simon. Kiss him too. Nobody says very much. It's as though you all still feel the need to process the events that happened in the caves. And Imani's revelation that you were drugged for the entire time. It's just those mushrooms, man. With just the two of you left, Imani drives up to the wolf's head and lets you out. She puts a hard hand on your shoulder as you prepare to emerge. Wait. She squints at you. I think I understand you. Creepy, okay. We just met. The caves and what's in them, they strip things away, show you what a person really is. I've met people like you before. I think you have drive. Like a hunter's drive? I think you're a fighter. I like that. Like a martial hunter? Is that what you're saying? Like a martial Creed hunter? People like you can do good in the world, but not here. It's dangerous here. You could get lost, and next time I might not be able to help you. Imani draws her hand back and looks at you over her shades. Think about what I've said, Liam. I don't understand what you mean. Imani shrugs. I've said my piece. It's not my fault if you don't understand what I'm saying. She grunts and nods, seemingly more to herself, as though pursuing some thought of her own, and drives away. She found you then. Turning, you see Annie. She is seated on the lawn, her slim arms wrapped around her knees, white blonde hair falling across them. You. Imani mentioned you. What the hell's going on? I knew you were in danger, and I knew Imani could help, Annie says, but I'm afraid she came too late. No, Imani got there in time. Everyone's fine. Annie looks sad. I really hope she did, she says. I really and truly hope she did. Help! I want to go back to London. She looks away. I think something very bad began today. Or maybe it really began before that. Maybe months before that. Or maybe thousands of years before that. And I'm sorry. Because maybe I could have done something. I was frightened. I thought that telling Imani would be enough. Maybe there was more I could have done, but I was fearful. And now we'll all pay the price. You, me, your friends, even Imani. Oh, God. Thousands of years ago. Is this something to do with the paintings we saw in the cave? I do love the manic pixie dream girl. Yeah. I do love the changeling pre-chrysalis. I don't know what she is. She puts an urgent finger to her lips. Best not to speak of what you saw down there. Didn't Imani say? Annie abruptly abandons the topic. I just want to tell you I'm sorry. Please remember that when it all falls apart, please remember that I did try, even if it wasn't enough. Please remember what I said. Please remember Annie Madigan. She is pleading with you now, her eyes wide and frightened, although you cannot tell why she is afraid. Of course I'll remember you. She closes her eyes and nods, turns away without a word more, and you make your way inside. Okay. You only see a little of the others before it's time to return to London. Nobody seems to want to talk about what happened, about the terror you experienced down in the caves, or what came of it. One thing Imani said is clearly true. The drugged air of those caves revealed some disquieting truths. Truths which have affected the dynamic of the entire group. Nobody seems sure what might happen next. Cormac in particular seems unwilling to discuss the kiss the two of you shared, and the two of you have never had a moment alone in which you can raise the subject. If anything, he is more aloof to you now than before, but you often catch him looking at you when he thinks you don't notice. Naked longing on his face. But he says nothing. Somebody else always notices. Simon, who is always watching Cormac, but Simon never comments. Internally he does, we just don't hear about it. You return to London and Ireland becomes, oh God, kind of a distant green dream with your experiences in the cave as its disquieting coda. You are more focused on your A-levels, the final exams that will determine your possibilities for college. Your results are poor, thanks. Your attention was elsewhere during class, and you never studied very much, preoccupied as you were with your other interests in life. It is unlikely that you'll be able to go to university. Whoopsies. On hearing the news, your father gives an indifferent shrug. Even your own academic failure cannot stir him out of his apathetic misery. What is your reaction? I don't care. I never intended to attend university anyhow, because I picked like a hustler. A diva is a female version of a hustler. It's what I picked as my background, so I don't care. And then summer comes and you return to Ireland. You have heard little from Cormac or any of the others in Ballyavon over the course of the year. They have been too busy studying for their own final exams, the Irish Leaving Certificate, to communicate much on social media or by text. They received their results not long before your arrival. You hear about it all over a pint of Guinness in the parlor of the Wolf's Head. Everyone is there except Cormac. The group has begun to drink, another one of those changes that you missed. Mayor poured each one a ceremonious pint of Guinness on the day of their 18th birthday. Claudia, to her vocal disgust, is still forbidden alcohol. And Simon politely declined his. He's wryly declared that he wants his first experience with drink to be a proper student pub crawl. To nobody's surprise, Simon has excelled, getting H1s, the highest grade possible, in all subjects, and has already been accepted into Trinity College, Dublin, studying Irish and history. Daniel has also done very well, and Kitty has achieved a respectable result. Claudia, a year younger than everyone else, has yet to take the leaving certificate, and Amy has long since dropped out of school. Surprised she was there to begin with. That leaves Cormac. Oh God, there's a empty box under my desk I just kicked. That leaves Cormac. Nobody knows what his results are, as he refuses to discuss them. Daniel seems convinced that he must have failed altogether and be facing the prospect of resitting the leaving cert next year. Of course you won't tell us, Daniel says. It is raining outside and raindrops splatter against the diamond-patterned windows of the snug Wolf's Head parlor. A band is playing in the other room, the mournful folk standard She Moved Through the Fair. He's too proud to admit that he failed. That's Cormac all over. Kitty frowns. Cormac was really applying himself this year. He wants to go to London for a year to work on his music, and his dad told him that he won't let him unless he did decently on his leaving cert. And that'd be great, wouldn't it? Cormac and Liam would be able to hang out all the time, do cool London stuff. Simon avoids looking in your direction as Kitty imagines you and Cormac spending time together in London. You can tell that the thoughts hurt him. Whoopsies. Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Why talk about Cormac? I lift my glass and a toast to Simon. Isn't it Mr. All H1s we should be celebrating? Simon lowers his eyes mock bashfully. Please, Liam, he says. I'm just going by Simon these days. His expression darkens, but I do think something is up with Cormac. He addresses the group. I'm going to drive up to the farm and talk to him tonight. I don't think he failed either, but I'm worried about him. Daniel shrugs. It's yet another O'Donnell special, if you ask me. Something goes wrong, storm off and sulk until somebody comes running to kiss it better. You can do what you like, Simon, but personally, I'm not letting him ruin another evening. Daniel intends to stay at the Wolf's Head for another drink and persuades Kitty to stay with him. Simon is going to drive to the O'Donnell's farm to talk to Cormac. Claudia is going to cycle home before the rain gets any worse. And you haven't had a proper chance to talk to Aunt Mare since you arrived. What will you do? What are you gonna do? I went before with Simon to go see Cormac. I'm not gonna do that this time. I'll talk to our aunt. Since we've had, like, no interaction with her, really. I just saw the last one with Claudia. Get on your bikes and ride. You find Mare in her back office. She is going over some papers, but she happily puts them away and brings out a bottle of Jameson when you come in. There you are. You weren't here for your birthday, Guinness, so you know you can have a drop of the hard stuff. Go on there. Yeah. Yes. Mare pours a glass for herself and settles down. So what's on your mind, Liam? I mean, we could still talk about Cormac, even though we're not going to go see him. Mare listens thoughtfully, taking the occasional sip of whiskey. I know Cormac, she says. Know him well. I tried to help out as much as I could when his ma died. That he would have been 8 or 9 years ago now. He used to be over here a lot. Red-haired little imp, all charm and mischief. She considers. But he hasn't been around much lately. I think Orla might be trying to get him into the family business. And Terry, bless him, won't be much help keeping him out. He was never much of a practical man. She sighs, looking sadder and older than you have ever seen her before. I wish I could help. Mare may be more right than she knows. You recall what you overheard here in the Wolf's Head last summer, the deal between the O'Donnells and the Dublin gang. From what Mare says, you suspect pressure is now being put on Cormac to help run the cannabis plantation as well. And so the evening passes, the fire burning low in Mare's study as the two of you talk and trade memories of Ballyavon and the Wolf's Head. At last your aunt begins to drowse, her head drooping low. You say goodnight and go upstairs to bed. Your dreams are troubled and murky that night. You're back in the caves, but now it is all pitch dark. All you know is that something is hunting you through the darkness. It is sniffing for your scent, racing on all fours through the maze of blind tunnels, and if it catches you, the worst thing in the world will happen to you. The tunnel you are in gets narrower and narrower, forcing you to bend down and then to wriggle on your belly as the cave ceiling inexorably lowers and lowers. You are putting your face and mouth against the cold, gritty rock, and suddenly it is not rock, but the moist, yielding fungus, forcing its way into your mouth, pressing clammily against your skin. You realize that you are... No. You realize that you are merging with it, being absorbed by it, and suddenly you know that this transformation is the worst thing in the world. Yes, it is. Oh. You wake up to early morning sunlight, your pillow soaked with sweat. The nightmare has left a foul taste in your mouth. Yeah, I hope so. A couple of days pass. The weather gets steadily hotter as midsummer's day approaches. There is a dry, thundery taste to the air, like a crackle of electricity on the tongue. Every day the sky above the Wicklow hills is the same vivid shade of blue. And every day brings the same haze of heat, Misty, Aunt Mare's sheepdog, seems to be driven near insane by the weather. She is constantly howling or whimpering. Aw. She often shakes uncontrollably and dashes to the wolf's head looking for a hiding place as though pursued by invisible enemies. Aw, poor baby. I love her. Don't know what she looks like or who she is, but I love that dog. I think she's missing an eye, right? Every night you are... Or is that the cat? The cat's missing an eye. Every night you are troubled by nightmares, almost all of them the same. You are in the caves again, being hunted in the dark. Some nights, unable to sleep, you stare out the window of your room under the eaves towards the mountains in the distance that shelter Glenkildove. Sometimes you think you see pale lights moving about up there where the standing stones must be. What do you think about? I think about Cormac. Somehow I know something terrible is coming for him, perhaps for us all. Perhaps he's out there in Glenkildove even now, sleeping rough in the hills as he sometimes does. Perhaps he sees what makes those strange lights around the standing stones. Why is it when you think of Cormac, you feel so weighed down by an ominous foreboding? I know because I played the demo, but I think if anyone's reading this, it's pretty obvious. Then on Sunday morning it comes. Kitty comes in as you and Aunt Mare sit down to breakfast one morning, her face pale. Liam, I heard in the village, it's Cormac's da. He's been arrested. All right, I remember this. Name of God, says Mare. She jumps to her feet and gets Kitty seated with a cup of tea in front of her. What happened? Is Cormac all right? The whole story gradually emerges. It seems that the guards have discovered that marijuana plantation up in the mountains. They raided it last night. The O'Donnell's guards and the Vietnamese laborers are in custody. They have now arrested Terry as the owner of the land. Simon and Claudia's parents have already picked up Cormac from the farmhouse, Kitty says. They're going to have him stay with them while his dad's away. Mare nods. They'll look after him. Come on, Liam, Kitty. Let's pick up Daniel, then go to the Foxes. Cormac needs you. She sighs. Father Matt, Terry's cousin, is in Rome at the moment. I wish he were here. He's always been the only person who could talk to Orla when she's in a rage. You drive down to Ballyavon, collecting a subdued Daniel on your way through the village before arriving at the Fox house on the outskirts of Ballyavon. Outside the house, a confrontation is in progress. Orla O'Donnell, Cormac's grandmother, and her son Aidan, one of Terry's brothers, stand in front of their van in the neatly graveled Fox driveway. With them is Aidan's oldest boy, Dawn. I'm going to say Dawn. Both Aidan and Dawn are gripping shotguns. The Fox family are standing facing them, Simon and his parents, along with Cormac. Claudia is still away on a summer school trip to Northern Ireland, although she's due back tomorrow. Simon and Claudia's father, Dr. Fox, gray-haired and smartly dressed even on a weekend morning, looks visibly intimidated by the O'Donnells. He's moody, angst, and full of rage. It can only mean one thing. Teenager. That's right, Jerry. That's all he is. He's just a teenager. All teenagers are the Beast of Glenkildove, actually. There's the twist ending. Sorry to spoil it for you. You can't take him, he says weakly, his eyes on the guns. Cormac doesn't want to go with you. Terry is one of our oldest friends, and Orla O'Donnell cuts him off. And nothing. I should never have let Terry go to college in Dublin. Prod friends and lazy, shiftless ways. That's all he got from it. It made him think he was too good for us, and here, look what came of it. The boy belongs with us. Maybe he won't be a total waster like his da, but only if we take him in right now. I step in and confront her directly, trying to force her to back off. Yep. If Cormac doesn't want to go with you, he's not going. You stare at Orla O'Donnell, the tension between the two of you growing steadily. Orla breaks the moment with a contemptuous laugh. He'll go where he's told, or I'll know the reason why. Now get out of my way, or I'll have the boys beat you silly. Orla, Mare says mildly, I'd like to say something. Well, say on, Mare, Orla says, raising her eyebrows. Since you and these young ones saw fit to interfere in a private matter, might as well speak your piece. I'm not afraid of you or your family. Terry was the only half-decent one of you, and now you've destroyed him. His son is staying with the Foxes. I know you're a smart woman. You're not going to take him, and your boys aren't going to use those idiot feckin' firing irons, because we both know that you don't care enough about Cormac to have them do anything stupid. Orla's mouth twists as though she'd bitten into sour fruit, but she grunts and gestures for Aidan and Dawn to back off. Maybe so, Mayor Grogan. Maybe it's just as you say, but you shouldn't make a habit of crossing me. You know, one of these days there might be something I do care enough about. Enough to make you very, very sorry that you weren't more afraid of me. Mare waves the threat aside dismissively. Don O'Donnell, already as tall and broad in the shoulders as his uncles and father, his features thick and brutal, has been staring intently at Kitty ever since you arrived. Now, as the Red O'Donnells return to their van, he addresses her. Hey, Akshula, you ever get bored with your little boyfriend there? He says, indicating Daniel. Give us a call. I'll give you something you can't get from him. He winks at her and grabs his crotch. Kitty rolls her eyes. Not if you were the last man in Ireland, Don O'Donnell. Don Chad? I'm not sure how you say that actual name. I have water here as well. Orla slaps her grandson around the head so hard that he staggers forward. Shut up! You'll show respect for women around your grandma. She glares at Aiden, Don Chad's father. This is how you're raising your boys? Sorry, Ma, Aiden mumbles. After the Red O'Donnells have departed, you find yourself alone with Cormac in the immaculate living room of the Fox house. Even the glass coasters on the coffee table have been laid out with mathematical precision. He is sitting on the spotless white sofa, staring into space, his body rigid. Get comfortable here, he says. I'm afraid of breaking something or getting something dirty. Ah, Jesus, how do you think Claudia grew up in a place like this? That girl's messier than I am. He speaks lightly, but you can tell from his voice that he is holding back tears. Maybe that's why she's so messy. Cormac squints at you. Could be, yeah. Cormac is silent for a while, then speaks bluntly and abruptly. My dad's already good as dead. They're going to kill him. You mean... your family? Yeah. My family, my grandma, really. My uncles just do as she says. She knows my dad. She knows he's weak. She knows he could never handle prison. He'll try to make a deal with the guards, the idiot, and so she'll have him killed. Cormac stares bleakly out into nothing. Maybe my dad wasn't the best father, he says. Especially after Mammy died, he smoked a bit too much, drank a bit too much. Sometimes when I was little, he'd pick me up and spin me round and round till I got dizzy and my head swam and there was nothing but blue sky and the warmth of his arms and the smell of him, like smoke and rain. And I never wanted him to let go because I felt so safe. He's my dad. Abruptly, he changes the subject. I dreamt last night about the caves. I have been dreaming about them too. I was going down into them deeper than we went before. So deep that I had to squeeze my way through at times, but it felt good. It felt like I was where I belonged, where I was always meant to be. He looks at you. It felt as good as when we kissed down there. The same sense of rightness, that feeling of pure happiness. Cormac hesitates. And then my skin began to itch so bad I had to rub it against the rocks of the cave, and as I itched, my skin began to come away. It came away in great patches wherever I rubbed it, and underneath was rough gray hide, and it felt so good. So cool, it's so free. I just wanted to tear all of it off. All that restricting itchy skin, rip it off with my nails. He looks at you, pain and confusion in his eyes. Everyone is talking about how you haven't been the same since the caves. Did something happen to you down there? Cormac hesitates. Finally, he speaks. The beast, he says, it caught me in the darkness. It brought me down. I felt its breath on my face, smelled its stink. It bit me. I thought I was going to die. I thought it was going to kill me, but it didn't. It just went away. He looks at you. I didn't tell anyone. I don't know why. When Imani told us all it was the mushrooms, I believed her, but I found bite marks on my leg that night. I haven't slept well since, but I couldn't tell anyone. I think everyone was so eager to believe Imani's explanation and forget the whole thing. His voice trails off. He clearly doesn't want to talk anymore, and you make your exit. The next day, Midsummer's Eve, dawns cloudless and hotter than ever. A heat haze dances all around the Wolf's Head grounds, blurring the outlines of gravel paths and neatly tended lawns into one single shimmering haze. Terry O'Donnell's bail is paid by his family. The case has stirred up some attention in the national press, and you watch him on TV that afternoon, emerging from the prison gates onto a Dublin street. He looks pale, unwell, and disheveled, somehow much smaller and older than the big, jocular man who greeted you with a joke and a wink when you first arrived at his farm. His brother Seamus is waiting for him in a black car across the street. Terry, seeing him, brushes past the reporters without acknowledging them and gets into the car. The look on his face when he sees Seamus is neither relief nor fear, but a kind of numb, weary acceptance, like an exhausted animal seeing the end approaching. You think about Cormac's suspicions. There's something about the expression on Terry's face. You know that they are going to kill him. Your phone rings. It is Simon. Liam, I'm worried about Cormac. I knocked on his door after the news about his father came out. There was no answer. He's not there. He's not in the house. And I think I know where he's gone. The Glenkildove caves? That's right, Simon agrees. He hesitates. He's been talking about the Glenkildove caves a lot. I don't know why, but he's never been quite the same ever since we went into them last year. Maybe none of us have. I think he wants to go back down there. Simon's voice drops. I think he wants to stay there forever. Simon meets you with Claudia, Kitty, and Daniel at the Wolf's Head. Inside Simon's car, it is even hotter than outside, and you are drenched in sweat over the course of the ride over the hills to Glenkildove. At the edge of the valley, Simon parks the car. He looks sick with worry and fear. Claudia, too, looks pale and wan, despite the heat and the sweat trickling down her forehead. I don't want to go back in those caves, she says. I don't want to. I can't. I don't know what happened down there. I don't know how much of it was real, but I can't ever go back there, not even for Cormac. Maybe we can call the guards or something. We can't do that, Claudia, Simon protests. They don't know those caves, not the way we do, and I think we're the only ones who can save Cormac anyway. We're his friends. We can help him. Simon's right. We have to go down there for Cormac. Maybe Claudia can, if she doesn't want to go, I don't want to force her to go. Maybe Claudia can wait and the rest of us can go. Of course, Cormac's down there somewhere, waiting for us to come looking for him, Daniel suddenly puts in. He sounds angry, the way he always does, because that's what he loves to do. Storm off, make himself the center of attention, and wait for us to come running. Daniel, his dog was arrested, says Kitty. Daniel makes a face. You can do what you want. I think Claudia had the right idea. Call the guards, tell them to save his stupid ass from himself. I didn't say that, Claudia says. I'd go down there if I could, I swear to God. I just can't. Daniel scowls. I'm not doing this. Not for Cormac. I'm sorry about his da and all. I really am. But this is the latest in a long line of Cormac's particular brand of bollocks. He storms off downslope into the woods in no particular direction. Simon shakes his head. This is a disaster. We need to stick together. Kitty, go after him. Talk some sense into him. Kitty is glaring back at him, suddenly and uncharacteristically angry. Why? Why is it always my job, Simon? Why do I always have to be the one kissing everyone's hurdies and making peace? Because Simon begins stammering, but Kitty overrides him. No, a lot of you have been taking me for granted for years. Oh, Kitty will bring this, Kitty will do that. You've never shown me any respect. Not you, not your sister, not Cormac, and definitely not Daniel. She looks at you. Maybe you're different, maybe you try sometimes, but I've had enough. She steps away and then looks back. I'm going, says Kitty. For once in my life, I get to storm off and all of you get to worry. She takes off in a different direction from Daniel. Simon recovers himself. Whatever, he says. I'm going to find Cormac. He makes off down the hill into the trees. Simon, Claudia calls after him. She starts to follow. I will also follow them. Claudia is just ahead of you as she enters the tree line, and Simon not far ahead of her, but somehow both of them have disappeared by the time you plunge into the darkness under the trees yourself. For a moment, the shade from the heat of the afternoon sun is a relief, but soon disquiet replaces it. Even more so than the first time you entered these woods, there is something deeply disorienting about them. Just a handful of steps in, you are no longer certain which way the open ground lies. It is as though the ancient trees have pressed in behind you, blocking off any chance of escape and forcing you forwards to whatever waits for you at the heart of the woods. You stop to listen and notice for the first time how quiet it is. No sound of birdsong, no drowsy hum of bees. It is as though nature itself is holding its breath. Then you hear Cormac's voice speaking angrily from somewhere ahead of you. You hear Simon's voice, although it is pitched too low for you to make out individual words, and then, once again, you hear that terrible sound that you heard in the caves, that animal howl of rage and a human scream rising to meet it, a scream of terror that quickly turns to one of agony. Oh, God. There are gaps in your memory at this point. You don't know quite how you found yourself at the foot of the little hill on the western edge of the wood, looking up at the standing stones. But you remember seeing that strange red bundle propped up against the largest of the standing stones, flies already buzzing around it in the unforgiving summer sun. That object that had been so torn and ripped, and worried that it took a moment or so to recognize it as something that had once been a human being. And longer to determine from the shredded clothes still clinging to bloody meat and bone that it was that body of Simon Fox. Oh, I'd forgotten it was Simon. Oh my God. That I literally forgot. You do remember being sick as the realization of what you were looking at sank in, and the bitter taste in your mouth afterwards. Simon's death was never solved. The teeth and claw marks on his body suggested a big, powerful wild animal such as a bear, but Ireland's wild bears died out thousands of years ago. Many of the older inhabitants in Ballyavon insisted that it must be the beast. Certain tabloids persistently speculated that you and the others must have formed some kind of teenage death cult, obviously, and murdered Simon as a sacrifice to the standing stones. Obviously, that's the obvious solution. Although the police repeatedly emphasized that no human being could have inflicted that kind of damage that they found on Simon's body. First guess, correct guess. Cormac was never seen or heard from again. Learning of his fixation with the caves, the Gardaí hypothesized that, fleeing from Simon's killer, he must have re-entered them and perhaps got lost in the labyrinthian passages below the surface, or fell victim to the same mysterious predator that killed Simon. Gas mask searches of the cave, organized and led by Imani Mokrani, found nothing. You can't remember seeing any of the others again after that day in Glenkildove. You're told Simon's funeral took place soon after. You remember nothing about it. You must have returned to London without delay. You remember little except fragments. For a long time, you just stayed in your room in your father's flat, staring up at the cracks in the ceiling. Simon's death haunted you, ate away at your mind and your memory. What troubled you the most about it? Yeah, like you do. Yeah, you just murder your friends for Satan. Like we all haven't been there. Like, come on. Don't say your hashtag not like other girls. Stupid. The cruelty, horror, and violence of the way Simon died. My own powerlessness to protect Simon on the day that it happened. That one. You never heard from any of the others again. You often thought about Cormac and wondered if he could somehow still be alive. Sometimes you dreamed of him down there in the caves, asleep in the darkness like an enchanted prince from some strange fairy tale. Gradually, you found yourself able to slowly emerge from your room. You are still troubled by frequent nightmares, and your memories of the time leading up to Simon's death have never fully returned, and life had to go on. What did you do next? What are you going to do next? Looking for a sense of purpose. Oh, now I think before I did this, I dropped out altogether, becoming part of London's seedy underground world of punks, junkies, misfits, and graffiti artists, which is fine. But I think after this thing happened, we want to find a purpose in life. So I looked for a sense of purpose. I applied to join the Royal Marines Commando. I don't necessarily know what that is. The RMC? Like, I've heard of it because I live in Europe now. But I don't necessarily know what it is, like, on a personal level. Basic training at the Marines Training School in Devon had this advantage. Most days you were too exhausted to suffer from nightmares or dwell on the events of the past. You were made to conduct long runs through the woods in full kit and to scramble across muddy obstacle courses, climbing cargo netting, negotiating treacherous pitfalls, and plummeting heart-stopping drop slides. Within a few weeks, you were in the best physical condition you had ever been in your life. You were made to repeatedly disassemble and assemble an assault rifle into full metal jacket. Until you could do it blindfolded, you were dropping out in the woods and left to find your own way back through the dead reckoning. No matter how well you performed in these exercises, praise from your instructors was vanishingly rare, and criticism constant, harsh, and unsparing. There followed 6 years, first as Royal Marines Commando, then later in the elite counter-terrorist special boat service. You did tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq and carried out missions in Africa and Latin America. Your life was in danger many times, and you saw some horrific sights in the field, but nothing would ever match the horror of your discovery at Glenkildove. As a result, you gained a name for your coolness under pressure and reached the rank of lieutenant. In what did you specialize? Ooh, tactics and squad leadership. Yeah, that sounds fun. Thanks to your... It doesn't, but for this role-playing purpose, sounds fun. Thanks to your unflinching ability to keep your head in combat, you were soon promoted to the rank of sergeant. You were a natural leader, both feared and loved by the people. It's better to be feared or loved by the people under your command for your harsh and unstinting criticism, your few rare and much desired words of praise, and above all, the reassuring sense you gave them that nothing and nobody frightened you. It was on returning from a second tour in Afghanistan that you heard whispered rumors that a new Special Forces unit, its numbers made up of hand-picked soldiers from all elite branches of the Army and Navy, was being put together. Nobody knew exactly what their role would be, but rumor connected it with a new wave of terrorist activity around the world, a suicide bombing on the Acropolis in Athens, other attacks in Ottawa. You were put forward for a selection for the new unit, a process so intense... Correct me if I'm wrong, but like Sins of the Sires and Parliament of Knives take place in these places, right? You're moved forward for selection for the new unit. Process so intense and grueling that it made basic training seem like a suburban camping trip. You were left to survive in the Scottish Highlands and the Belize jungle and put through a rigorous battery of physical and psychological tests designed to simulate being captured and tortured by the enemy. You passed them all with flying colors. And then came the final test, something that you were assured was just a formality. In an anonymous prefab facility somewhere on the Pembrokeshire coast, you sat in a white room while a doctor injected a cocktail of various drugs into your bare arm. My God. Then started asking you questions. They were about Glenkildove, about the Beast, about Simon. As your vision blurred, you could hear yourself responding, your voice slurred but calm, without your volition. Deep buried memories, stirred up by the drugs in your system, suddenly rising to the surface like long-forgotten dreams. You cannot recall what you said, but you do recall the naked shock on the doctor's face as you continued talking, the agitation and rising horror. Well, you got what you asked for. You failed the test. Whatever it was you said disqualified you from entry to the mysterious new unit. Some Second Inquisition unit that obviously I... Perfect. The nightmares returned soon afterwards, as though the drugs in the doctor's syringe had released them. You left the Royal Marines soon afterwards, moving back to London to face an uncertain future. Cormac's calls came soon after. Whatever awaits for you back in Ireland, you are prepared to face it now. You'll hunt down the beast and slay it once and for all. So here you are, back in the O'Donnell farmhouse after all these years, with the thing that killed Simon stalking around outside the door. It will not be long before it tires of tormenting you and makes its way inside. If it can get to you, it will kill you just as it killed Simon, and your fate will become just another sad mystery of the Wicklow Hills. What will you do? I will make a break for it now, running for the woods, trying to outdistance the beast. I outran it once, baby. I could do it again. I probably should do something more military-like, but that's what I want to do, so that's what I will do. Boom. Taking a deep breath, you race out the door and across the farmyard towards the tree line. There is a howl of rage, and you hear the beast behind you. Pow! Love it. Look at that! We didn't have any pictures during the demo. Look at that! That's awesome. It's a werewolf. Clearly you were just talking about your crush the whole time. Yeah. The doctor said he's not ready. The doctor said, "You're gay?" No, I'm kidding. Just as you enter the shadow of the trees, a terrible weight crashes into you and you are knocked off your feet and onto the grass. You had no chance whatsoever against the beast's unnatural speed. The beast looms above you. Its rank smell is overwhelming. It rakes its claws across your face and chest, plowing as effortlessly through flesh as through cloth. You taste blood. The beast pauses as though admiring its handiwork, then leans forward and opens its jaw, preparing to bite out your throat and put an end to it all. Its golden animal eyes meets yours and you recognize something in them. Cormac. The voice is so ragged and hoarse that you do not realize for a moment that it is your own. The beast pauses, something suddenly clouding the predatory certainty of those shining eyes. You close your eyes, lacking the strength to shout again. When you have opened them, the beast is gone, but you know now. You know what the beast is. You have always known. You repressed the memory in your waking hours, forced it down somewhere deep and dark in your mind, but it came out to haunt your sleep at night. Every night you relived that moment at Glenkildove, looking up from the shelter of the trees. You saw Simon facing Cormac among the standing stones, Cormac angry, shouting, Simon frightened, holding up his hand, pleading. And you saw the anger twist Cormac's face and then his body. You saw him grow, his hands extending into claws, muscles, and fur bursting through his clothes, his face splitting and distending into something angular and inhuman, and then he lunged. Cormac O'Donnell is the Beast of Glenkildove. It's your last conscious thought before pain, exhaustion, shock, and blood loss overwhelm you and you fall unconscious. By surviving the hunt this far, you have learned and grown stronger. If you wish, you can spend some or all of your accumulated experience at this point. Any points you don't spend will be stored and can be spent at a later time. I don't know what my stats are now. Let's check. Pretty good. I got some firearm. I mean, pretty good. I'm not that smart. Stamina 5. That's nice, honestly, for a human being. That's nice. Yeah. Yeah. Let's spend some mental attributes real quick. You have 6 experience points. You cannot. Okay. So nothing there. I don't think I can do a whole hell of a lot with 6. So I'm gonna save those up. I do not wish to spend any more experience points. Thank you. And that's where we will stop. Save those up for maybe when I can get a little bit smarter. You know the amusing part of this? My nerd just shot the werewolf and got away fine. Like, who needs military training? That's fine. So that's where I'm going to stop. I went a little bit over an hour. I'm proud of myself. I don't feel, like, totally strained. But yeah, I probably shouldn't push it any more than that. But that's basically where we ended in the demo. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited to be playing. I didn't intend to play a military, a martial Creed hunter, but it's interesting because the woman that you meet, Imani, she was like, I know it was probably not meant that way, but she was like, you know, I see you got a lot of fight in you, and so it sort of put that in my brain. So as soon as I saw that option, I was like, I want to play a martial hunter. So I think that's really, really cool. And I'm very, very excited. Yeah, so I'll see everybody next week. You know, fingers crossed that this virus decides to leave my body by next week, or if it's just really comfortable in here and just wants to live in here forever. But thank you so much. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll hunt more next week.